The fountain pen was brought in by a new client about a week ago. They had dug down in the bottom of an old moving box before discovering the fountain pen. Who can say how long the object had been in that spot? They first looked up ways to clean it on Google, and then they headed into Paper Papier to get some ink. Just before we left the shop, we had a conversation about the several kinds of paper that the customer may use with their pen, such as Rhodia and Clairefontaine. The last question, which was also the most crucial one, was how do you keep a fountain pen? Why is it so important to properly store a fountain pen? Storage is one of the most important aspects of taking care of and maintaining a fountain pen. Incorrect storage may result in damage to various elements of the pen, since the ink might dry up and cause harm. When a pen is left on its nib for an extended period of time, the nib might get damaged. Additionally, environmental factors such as temperature and humidity, as well as movement, may all have an effect on the quality of your pen. The basics of storing fountain pens. It is advisable to keep a fountain pen out of the direct sunshine and in a location that is cool and dry if at all possible. It is possible to hold the pen in a horizontal posture or with the nib pointed upward. When going on a trip, it is essential to have a storage container, and the ink reservoir should either be fully empty or completely filled. How long should a fountain pen be kept in storage? It is not necessary to empty the reservoir of the fountain pen if it is going to be put away for a few days. Nevertheless, you should make sure the nib is clean before putting it away. By doing so, you will reduce the risk of the ink drying out on the nib or flowing into the cap of the pen. You may read more about how to clean your fountain pen in our blog post titled "The Do's and Don'ts for Taking Care of Your Fountain Pen" if you are interested in gaining more knowledge about the process. In addition to that, we have compiled the following chart for you about storage. What is the best way to keep my fountain pen? Putting the cap on your fountain pen. After the nib has been thoroughly cleaned, the cap should be fastened over it in a safe manner. The process of capping, which is sometimes referred to as posting, requires that the cap be gently pressed into place until it can go no further or until there is a click as it settles into place. Capping is also known as posting. Where exactly should I keep my fountain pen's cap? It's less about where to put it and more about where not to store it. The nib down position should never be used since it might cause the nib to get damaged and causes ink to pool. It is recommended that you either keep the nib of your fountain pen vertically or horizontally for the greatest results. Although it is mostly up to you, there are a few things you should think about before making a decision. Avoid storing the nib of your fountain pen in a downward position. In the event that your fountain pen is devoid of ink, you may use either position successfully. Depending on whether or not your pen still contains ink, you may have different options for how to keep it. This is because while the pen is being loaded with ink, placing it in the horizontal position keeps the nib moist and prevents gravity from drawing the ink into the feeder, nib, and cap of the pen. Because of this, the possibility of leaking is significantly reduced, and as soon as you take your pen out of storage, it will be ready for use. Fountain pen with the nib facing up or horizontally. When held in a vertical posture, a fountain pen that has been loaded with ink allows gravity to drag the ink to the rear of the pen, away from the nib and cap of the pen. You won't have to deal with any leakages, and neither your feeders nor your nibs will be harmed or clogged in any way. One disadvantage of putting your pen away for storage is that it won't be available to write with right away. A few seconds are going to pass before the ink is going to go into the nib. Why does a fountain pen spill when you use it? According to the information that was provided to us by a fountain pen specialist, fountain pens don't leak unless there is anything wrong with them that you've created. Even while this is definitely the case with the assistance of gravity, the situation is somewhat more difficult. Temperature, sunshine, and humidity may have an effect on fountain pens, just as they can have an effect on nearly everything else. Because of this, it is essential to choose an appropriate spot to keep your pen while not in use. In the event that your pen becomes too hot, the air contained inside the cartridge may expand, which may result in the pen leaking. How to travel with a fountain pen? My question is about how to travel with a fountain pen. There are a few things to think about if you like your fountain pen to the point that you want to bring it with you when you travel. Because of the shift in height and therefore the change in pressure, the volume of air inside the pen has increased. In addition to heat, this may also cause the ink to spill while it is being forced out of the reservoir and into the nib of the pen. You should do all in your power to steer clear of a nasty pen mishap when you're in the air. If you want to use your fountain pen while you're flying, it's better to hold off using it until the aircraft has reached a stable altitude first. Advice for bringing your fountain pen on an adventure. If you are not planning to use it on the flight or in the immediate time that follows, you should entirely empty it of ink or pack it to the utmost capacity. This will assist in preventing the reservoir from being too pressurized due to the accumulation of air. If it is still full of ink, you should keep it in a vertical posture with the nib facing upward. This will assist in preventing leaks from occurring. In a plastic bag that is sealed, you should keep it isolated from any other objects. Keeping it in a specialized carrying case inside of the plastic bag is an even better option. Cases for storing fountain pens that are on exhibit. There are a variety of containers designed specifically for storing fountain pens, including leather pen cases, travel cases, display cases, and storage boxes. Box for storing. Boxes of this kind are typically horizontal and rectangular in shape, and their inside may be lined with a wide range of fabrics, including felt, cotton flannel, or even suede. Velvet should be avoided because it often contains strands of nylon, which are abrasive to the finish of a fountain pen and should be avoided. Case for display. This is a wonderful method to display the fountain pens that you have in your collection. There is often a glass panel for viewing purposes. Be wary of direct sunlight, as it might act like a magnifying glass and cause irreparable harm to your pen. Case for the transportation of your fountain pen. Small and often crafted from leather, a travel pen for your fountain pen is typically compact. Wood and plastic are two more materials that may be used. The only function they provide is to safeguard your pen, and although they may not be the most aesthetically pleasing option, they do what they were designed to do. The inside is often lined with suede or felt, and there is typically a strap to secure the pen in place. There was no motion when we were in flight. Because of their manageable size, they may be stored in the back pocket or readily packed into a travel bag. Casing for a fountain pen. Leather casing for fountain pens. They look nicer than other travel cases and are lined with soft fabric to avoid damage while in transit, making them an essential purchase for anyone who are really passionate about fountain pens. Take a look at our assortment of fountain pens if all of this talk about these writing implements has piqued your interest in them, and if you're curious about how you too may take pleasure in mastering the art of properly storing them. There is something here to fit every taste and every wallet.